today we have another badminton athlete joining us. Her name is Alex Bruce, and she's also been to the Olympics. So she's going to talk about her experience as a professional athlete and going to the Olympics, and maybe tell us a little bit more about her sport as well. But officially welcoming all of our camps in London, Ancaster, and Woodstock. Welcome, everyone. So before we go to the questions, I'm going to turn it over to Alex to tell us a bit more about herself and her experience.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, first of all. I started playing badminton when I was 8 years old, and it's kind of a funny story because neither of my parents played badminton, but they played tennis, so they put me into the badminton lessons that were available in hopes that eventually I would switch on to tennis and continue and, play with them and stuff, but I just liked badminton too much that I didn't change, and it worked out really well, and they're happy. They've learned a lot about badminton. And so I played all growing up, and I grew up in Toronto. I actually played a lot of tournaments in Woodstock growing up, so it's fun to have a camp from there. And I graduated high school in 2008, where next I was accepted to Western University in London, so I've lived in London as well. And so I started university in the spring or the fall of 2008 in the engineering program, and I did 2 years in the engineering program, and then I was still playing badminton, but I was having to split my energy between playing badminton and getting through engineering, which is quite a rigorous program in terms of a lot of class hours and projects and assignments. So I was getting kind of frustrated, so I decided to take years off school and just try and play badminton full time and see if I could get any better or where my potential was, and try playing tournaments outside of Canada and good internationally. So I started in the spring of 2010, starting playing internationally with my doubles partner at the time, Michelle Lee. And we just started training and traveling full time, going to tournaments all over the world and competing, and it was going really well. So we decided the next year to try and qualify for the Olympics, for the 2012 Olympics that were in London. And it was a really close race between us and an American team, but we edged them out slightly, so we got invited to the London Olympics, which was amazing. And it was the format for the doubles was round robin, which was the first time they used that format in the Olympics. So we were in a pool with 3 other teams, so we were guaranteed 3 matches playing all the teams in our pool, and then the top 2 teams from each pool got promoted to the quarterfinals. So we were very low ranked compared to all the other teams that were at the Olympics, because there's only 16 teams in the doubles. So we lost all our pool play matches. We lost to China, Korea, and Russia. And then on the last day of the pool play, China and Korea were playing along with 2 other women's doubles teams in a different pool, and they all tried to lose, which is crazy to think about someone trying to lose at the Olympics, because it just seems silly to do that. But they were doing it because they knew who they would play the next day, set themselves up for a better matchup. So they would get maybe an easier matchup the next day in the quarterfinals. But the Badminton World Federation kind of saw what they were doing, and then that night they all got disqualified, all 4 teams. So China and Korea, who were in our pool, got disqualified, which means the only 2 teams left were us and Russia, who originally didn't make it out of the pool. So we got a bye into the quarterfinals because we were the teams left over. So we ended up playing a team from Australia in the quarterfinals, and we ended up beating them. It was really close and very exciting match for us all, getting just invited back in when we thought we were out. So it was a pretty crazy match, and then we made it to the semifinals, and we played really, really well against this Japanese pair, and we had never done so well against such a top-ranked team in the world. I think they were ranked 4 in the world at the time, and we were ranked 27. So quite a big difference, but we took them to 3 sets, and unfortunately we lost, but it was a really fun match, and we played really well. And then in the bronze medal match, we played Russia again and lost again, so we ended up coming fourth overall, so it was a pretty crazy experience considering all that happened. And yeah, but the Olympics was an amazing experience overall. We were lucky enough to be able to march into the opening ceremonies, and I was lucky enough as well to be able to go to the closing ceremonies, and I met lots of other Canadian athletes. So it's really cool meeting other athletes that are at your caliber but do a different sport, because you don't realize how much you have in common, all the time you put into your sport and all the sacrifices you've had to make and stuff like that. So it was quite amazing. And then, so after the Olympics, which was in August of 2012, I came home to Toronto and then immediately moved back to London because I was enrolled in school again for September. And then I spent 2 more years in London finishing my engineering degree, which takes us to this spring, 2014. So I finished my engineering degree, and now I'm back training full time in hopes to compete at the Pan Am Games next summer, which is in Toronto, and then hopefully the Olympics in 2016, which is in Brazil. So that's where I'm at right now. So I'm training full time, and I'm leaving next Friday for Denmark for the World Championships.
Wow, very exciting. So congrats on finishing your engineering degree. Our London
Thank
camp's actually at the university, or sorry, Western University. So
Oh,
that's
cool.
cool. And what an experience at the Olympics. That is
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, so thank you for that introduction to your experience. Let's go to our camp in Woodstock for the first question. I think they have a couple questions there. Can we switch out? Can't see your question.
How many years do you want to come into the Olympics again?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear the question.
Say it nice and clear, okay, bud? Nice and clear.
How many years do you want to be in the Olympics?
Well, the next Olympics is in 2016. For the Summer Olympics, the Winter Olympics happen, but badminton's not in the Winter Olympics. So I'm hoping to be able to go to the Summer Olympics in 2016. And then after that, I'm not sure what I'll do. Maybe get a job in engineering, or maybe continue competing. But so I've been to 1 Olympics. I'm hoping to go to 2 Olympics.
Cool. Let's go to London now for the next question.
How much did you practice when you were younger?
When I was in high school, I practiced 5 days a week for 2 hours. So that was when I was competing in Canada at the junior level. So I was trying to qualify for junior nationals and win that types of event. And my first international event was when I was 16. I went to Brazil for the Junior Pan Am Championships. So that's how much I was training leading up to that.
Wow, quite a bit. That's awesome. Let's go to Ancaster for the next question. Is there a camper in Ancaster with a question for Alex?
What is the hardest part about getting into the Olympics?
I'd say it's different for every sport because every sport has different criteria for you to qualify for the Olympics. So for badminton, Canada isn't guaranteed any spots for the Olympics. Unlike swimming, for example, who's guaranteed, say, 2 spots for the 100-meter free or something like that. Canada, you have to qualify only based on international regulations. So for doubles, only 16 teams are invited. So it's really competitive, and they go on world ranking, which is comprised of your best 10 tournaments of the whole year. So I think the hardest part was being able to perform well for the entire year to make your world ranking as good as possible. Other events, other sports, they just take it on one event, which is also quite stressful because if you don't perform well in that one event, then you also can't go. So for badminton, it's tough because you have to sustain your fitness and your level of play for the entire year while you're traveling around the world playing all these top tournaments.
Yeah, quite an intense year, I guess, trying to qualify for the Olympics. Woodstock has a question that they submitted on Twitter. They want to know, have you won a gold medal?
I have won a gold medal before. I would say a couple of my biggest achievements in terms of gold medals were, I think the first one was in 2011 where Michelle and I won the Canadian Nationals. So that's at the senior level, so any age can play. So that was a big step for us because we weren't sure where we fell on the Canadian spectrum, but we beat a couple players who used to be top in Canada and internationally, so that was a big stepping stone for us. And the next gold medal, which was very important in terms of Olympic qualification, was at the Pan American Games in 2011, which were in Mexico. And that was really important in terms of qualification for the Olympics because we are competing directly with the other teams from Pan America, which is North and South America, that were also trying to get into the Olympics. So by winning that tournament, we got a lot of ranking points towards our world ranking and just a lot of confidence that we can beat a lot of teams and we deserve to be top and to continue to compete internationally. So that was really big motivation boost and confidence boost going forward in the qualification process.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. Let's go to London for the next question.
Yeah.
What's your badminton racket made of?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure what it's made of. Probably some carbon fibers, and I'm not sure. I actually just got new ones from my sponsor, Yonex. I'm playing with one of their new rackets, so I don't know what it's made of. That's a great question. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, good question. So, Ancaster submitted a question on Twitter, kind of related maybe. They're wondering what might be the science involved in badminton.
In terms of the equipment, or in terms of like sports science?
I guess what would you say, like, as you're playing, like as an athlete, what sort of things are you thinking about related to science?
Well, racket is a good example, I suppose. When you're choosing your racket, there's each racket from, each company has different qualities. So in my racket, I like it a bit lighter so I can move it a bit faster, but it takes away a little bit of power, for example, when you're smashing. So some people like a bit of heavier rackets so they have that power when they're smashing, but maybe it's more difficult to defend or play faster because they're moving, a fraction of a second slower. And another thing related to science that's kind of interesting is the shuttlecock that we use. It's made of goose feathers, but they're only made with the left wing of a goose, so they fly a certain way, and they're all made of the left wing to keep it consistent, but it actually gives left-handed players not an advantage, but it's just different because when they contact the shuttle on the other side, it makes the bird spin a bit differently. So in certain shots, it falls a little differently on the other side of the court. So that's kind of fun too. I'm not left-handed though, so I don't have
Okay,
that.
yeah, I was gonna ask. Okay, let's go to Woodstock again for the next round of questions. Right there.
Do you play any other sports?
Yeah, I enjoy playing other sports. Right now, it's tough to find the time to play other sports, but when I was in high school and younger, I played a lot of basketball. That was kind of my go-to sport, and I was quite competitive in basketball. I also like to play volleyball and softball, tennis. I like a lot of sports. And now that I'm just training full time, and when I was in university, I played other sports when I had the time, just for fun. At Western, I did some intramural stuff in like flag football and dodgeball and European handball and stuff, but most has to go into badminton.
Cool. Oh, welcome back, Ancaster. So Ancaster, did you have another question for Alex?
Yes, we do.
Great.
What do you enjoy the most about badminton?
Oh, that's a
Oh,
great
good question.
question. I love badminton because it's a very dynamic sport. You have to compete against an opponent, so you have to pay attention to your opponent. It has a lot of different elements. You have to move in all directions. You have to have good hand-eye coordination. You have to have the speed because the shuttle moves across the net very fast and in over a short distance. Tennis is a bit of a longer distance that the ball travels, but the badminton court's a lot smaller than the tennis court. And your fitness has to be top. There's lots of tactics and strategies. So I think I love it just because there's so many different aspects that you have to be aware of for badminton. And you have to practice all of them and be good at all of them in order to be a top level player.
Yeah, cool. Let's go back to London now for another question.
How many medals have you won in total?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I remember playing tournaments and winning little medals when I was 9 and 10 years old. So I actually don't know the total, but I won in my dad's house when I was maybe 17. We were packing up a lot of boxes because he was moving, and so he started counting all the medals I had, and I think he counted over 100, but that was a while ago, so I have definitely over 100, but I'm not sure of the total. They're scattered around different places. Some at my mom's house, some at my dad's house, some with me, and I've been moving around a lot recently, so it would take some time to tally the real total, but I will work on it.
That is a big number. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Woodstock for another question. Is there another question in Woodstock for Alex?
Yes, we do have another question.
What's your badminton record?
Sorry?
What's your badminton record?
My record?
Yes.
I think, yeah, that was the question.
Oh, like my win-loss record? I have absolutely no idea. I played so many tournaments. I think on the Badminton World Federation site would have a record, but that would just be for the international tournaments that are recorded. So I've played a lot of other tournaments that wouldn't be recorded, but I hope I have more wins than losses. I think I do with the level I'm at, but who knows?
If there's no record, you could say. You
Yeah.
could say so. All right. Let's go back to Ancaster. Is there another question for Alex and Ancaster?
What is the hardest part about badminton?
The hardest part, that's a good question. I guess it depends what your strengths and weaknesses are. I'm pretty good with tactics and serve and serve receive and stuff like that, but maybe I'm a little weaker on lateral movement just because I'm tall. But for someone shorter, it might be different. They might, their movement's very easy for them, but they have trouble maybe with their smashes because they don't get as much angle as I do just because I'm naturally taller. So I guess it depends on yourself. And some people have trouble with tactics, some people have trouble with footwork. So yeah, it depends. And I think the important thing is once you recognize what your strengths and weaknesses are, you continue to get your strength, keep your strength strong, but you also have to work on your weaknesses because if you have a big weakness, then good opponents will be able to exploit it. So if your weakness isn't so weak, then you'll be better off.
Good question. So I think we have time for one more question for Alex. Let's go to London for the last question.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the fastest you've ever served?
The fastest I've ever served. I don't have a number for you. The serve in badminton, though, isn't the fastest shot, unlike tennis. The fastest shot in badminton is the smash, which looks like the tennis serve in terms of it's over your head and it's coming really fast. I've never been measured on a radar gun, but I know some top players in the world have, and I know there is one top Malaysian player that was recorded at over 400 kilometers an hour.
Wow. That's fast.
I don't hit that hard, but
No.
it is possible.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. All right, so that's all the time for our call with Alex today. Thank you so much, Alex, for taking the time to call in to STEM Camp and answer our questions.
Thank
And thanks everyone for those great questions.